I'm ready to slash a bird.
No quarter. I'm going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I say I'm excited on every episode, which is true because I just love talking about robots. But I have two builders from, that are involved with one of my favorite teams, and also both from the Pittsburgh area, which is an area that I personally love and, wish that I could go back to on a regular basis. But Joe and Don Doerfler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. So there's definitely been some exciting things happening in the last year. We'll kind of talk about an array of things, but going back, since that's, at this point, like the furthest back thing, being part of Team Huge. Now, I've talked to Jonathan, obviously, and he's kind of, told me the whole backstory of like getting Huge ready in the off season and all of that, and, making sure that it was ready to go. I'd be curious to hear from both of you, your perspective on that experience, because, as we know, Huge has had so many problems in the past and is a robot with like such potential, and finally was able to reach that potential this past season and get into the finals. So I just want to hear about that journey from your side of things.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's always teething issues. Like, we can only test and do stuff whenever we get to BattleBots, but it's just we always improve. That's the main goal. After every season, we try to improve. Even after like last season, there's still some things to improve on. And last season was just the smoothest as it has ever gone. We first time it drove was before BattleBots, and it was working before, so that was a pretty big accomplishment in itself. But we all have different jobs on the teams. Like I tame the spaghetti. Basically, that's getting all the wiring in the bot all nice and neat and cozy. Put a blanket over it and put it to bed at before it goes to fight. Um, Mostly like electronic stuff, but also normal pit crew stuff, fixing stuff as stuff breaks and stuff like that.
I think for my first year specifically, and John keeps saying this, you got lucky. We went 8-1 this year. It's not always this easy. Like it's not always going to be, fun and roses and everything. And yeah, we're winning every match. So I was ecstatic to be on the team this year and how well we did. Coming into it, sort of being around Jonathan and pretty much everyone on the team, knowing them, Garrett living in the Pittsburgh area with us, being in Bots IQ, knowing Peter and John through Motorama for the years, Brennan sort of knowing him as well. We just sort of worked together. It all gelled from that first day, really. Whenever we got into the pits, the robot was looking well. Don and I actually got stuck in Pittsburgh. They delayed our flight. We were supposed to leave at 6 o'clock at night to get layover, or late at night in Vegas, but we got surprised and we had a 6 a.m. flight. So that was kind of crazy. So we were planning on trying to get the robot all together. They were missing us for half a day. It all worked out, but pretty much like what Don said, my task was pretty much whatever needed to be done. Our main goal as a team, as we started getting later on into the fights, specifically into the playoffs, we wanted John just to like relax. We didn't really want John to focus on the robot, obviously, but not to say, hey, John, go do this. Hey, John, go do that. Just relax, let your nerves calm down, because, I think we'll get into it a little bit. Like everyone has nerves fighting, no matter what. I don't care what you say. Even if it's at Norwalk, Sword, Motorama, you're fighting an Antweight or 250. Everyone has the same nerves, no matter what. But definitely for the 250-pound level, I feel like there's a lot riding on that. So as a team, we agreed, try to let John do as minimal as possible. So yeah, it was amazing.
think after most of the fights, the production crew were like interviewing him, and like we're just in the background, just mad rush disassembling it, and he just turns around, he's like, "Where's the robot?" And then it's just because we're just dead set on just the next fight. We got to take things apart, make things sure things aren't broken, just
It,
the all
yeah,
normal maintenance.
it was honestly crazy right after like getting into the final, like not the finals, but like the playoff just in general. Like for those first four matches, there was a routine that we all had, and everything was down to the science pretty much to that point. Once the robot got back, it was pretty much split within 20 minutes, if not that. And the robot went back down to the battery tent. So we checked all the motors, no matter what, to see if anything was, if it was all working. If there wasn't something working, then we knew that we had to tear it completely apart. And then by that time, it was pretty much an hour or two, and we had it all put back together. And the production team was like, "Hey, can you guys start working on the robot? Like, what are you guys doing?" We're like, "It's pretty much done. It's to a point where we're pretty much satisfied with it." And then, we talk as a team for the next match. Um, so yeah, they're like, "Well, can you just, take off the top plate and start messing with stuff?" We're like, "Oh, okay, sure, whatever you want."
Was there any one match in that, that whole series of wins that was, particularly like meaningful or special to you? I mean, for me watching, as I told Jonathan, and I don't know, I think he was surprised that I was so excited about that one, but like the witch doctor one for me, because it's such an iconic, like powerful bot, and it's won so much, and to see it get torn apart like that was just insane. But I'm curious to hear what you thought with all the different matches.
Don, you want to go?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. There were just so many good matches. If I had to pick a favorite, it would have to be Star Child. We're good. We're real good friends with Brandon and the Omega Cult. I mean, team. Um, uh, you know, uh, we all get along. We all talk about big wheel theory and fun stuff like that, and you pretty much talk almost every day. But
So I agree with you for the witch doctor one, but I'm gonna back it up one fight to the Mad Catter because that was like the real true test, right? So like after we got through Scorpios, essentially, like it was sort of like, okay, let's see what we can do against Avert now. Like let's see what Huge was made for. And I think John, like seeing how well the smaller robots have done, specifically against tiny verts, it was sort of like it's like a breath of fresh air. Let's see if we can do it, and let's see if it can actually like scale up performance wise, right? Um, so the fight went our way. Obviously, it was pretty close. It was 6-5 across for all the judges. Um, but that fight taught us so much about the robot just in general. Specifically like with the bushing, specifically like going a full 3 minutes. John was doing his aggressive tapping. Like he learned that stuff from that fight to go on with the Witch Doctor and the Copperhead and obviously Sawblaze, really. Um, so I think looking back at the season, I can look at that fight and be like, there was a changing point for that for our team.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, Omega Team may or may not be a cult. If you don't buy merchandise from robotsruinmylife.com, you may or may not get a visit from Star Child. Just saying.
he's inside our walls. I can hear him.
um so yeah, I mean, like that was a really big run, and the final, I still say it's the best final that I've ever seen. I mean, I can't think of anyone that really rivals that. And yes, like, Sawblaze won, but I think most people agree it was just a flat out good match, and I think most people would have been happy no matter which way it ended up going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly, thinking back to it, back like during that final, like it's just cool to be in that spectacle, right? You're walking out of that tunnel and it's literally packed to the gills. Like you see all the builders around, and it's just really a special moment just before that. And I think like Jonathan puts it best, like we won just being in the competition, being in that like round of 32 and then making it to the finals. Like that's just, icing on the cake. Um, the match in itself, like we thought it was way worse in person just because of like in the moment, but watching it back on TV, it was actually it was a lot closer. Obviously, we still lost, but yeah, at that moment we thought like, yeah, there's like no possible way whatsoever. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, I thought everyone was just being nice. It's like the pit arena guy who came up to me. He's like, "Wow, I wonder who won." I was like, "Really? We totally lost that." And then like everybody in the pit was like, "It was a real close match." It's like, "Yeah, you're just saying that," but then, yeah, I still think we lost, but it was definitely closer on TV.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, like what a way to finish that. But I definitely want to get into talking about the smaller bots because again, of like crazy things that happen when we're looking back at this past NHRL event in June, to have the last bots come down to bots that are driven by two sets of brothers had to have been one of the craziest things that could have happened. Before we get into like just talking about that, I mean, how like what did you think about that happening?
Thought it was awesome. Uh, would have been a better story if one of the brothers won, but to have a ultimate brothers off. But no, it was fun. The fights were awesome. Even like whenever Cthulhu dismantled me, it was still pretty awesome.
I was talking in Don's ear. I was like, "Do you want to tap? Let's tap." And he was just like, "No, I'm just gonna keep going." Like at that point,
I was
it's
like,
sort of
it's
like,
already totaled. There's a
yeah,
chance that I could tickle him with the face of my robot and then somehow maybe win or just last. The
I,
only
I
thing I really cared about was like the electronics, and those were hanging out for a good minute, and I could just see myself being gutted, and I was like,
yeah,
I had no way of winning.
with that being so close of like later in the day, and it's like, you know what, Norwalk nowadays is so competitive, right? So we have two robots each, like two huges and two discos. So Don was on his second disco already. So worst case scenario, we could have gotten the first one back together if he were
Oh
to have
yeah,
won
the
that.
the other one was still good. That's also another reason why I was just gun ho, just sacrificed that one, and then I have a slightly less messed up one to use.
But yeah, I think that was a cool spectacle. Like obviously when you're going into that day, and specifically it was like a special day, like, Saturday and then Sunday with it being a 2-day event. You're not really looking at those headlines. Like you're not really even thinking about that. You're just thinking about like the robots, like your first match and then okay, your second match, like who you're facing. Um, but yeah, no, it was a cool possibility. Like whenever Chris came up to us and we're like, hey, like, you're fighting the brothers, it's brother versus brother. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Um, Never, I don't think that's ever really going to happen. Who knows again? So yeah,
In the finals, we need a re brothers off. We need
yeah.
to we need we need we need a double rematch.
So funny story. The first Norwalk that Don and I went to, it was May 2021, and we both took first and second in the 12s and 30s. We're like, oh, okay, this is never going to happen. And then Owen and his brother, her brother did, and we're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, I mean, it's fun seeing that, right? Like, it's fun seeing something that's sort of impossible to happen, specifically in nowadays. Like, Norwalk is just like overly competitive. Like, any robot that's entered specifically, like for that competition, like it's anyone's game. And specifically with it being single elimination now, it's really tough.
Yeah, and I mean, since you've been going there for a while, I'm curious to get your thoughts on just the way that things have evolved and the level of competition there at this point, because I know I hear a lot of people say, the Beatles are super competitive, and so I'm going to move into these other weight classes. But like when you look at the 12s and 30s, they're also super competitive. Like there's just really good robots all across the board. So I don't think that there's any weight class that's more safe.
Right. Yeah, the 12s and 30s have been growing pretty fast. I mean, like last year, I think it was maybe 30s were single digits, 12s were maybe 15s, but now it's pretty consistently seeing 30 to 20 robots per weight class, which is insane. And, it's just how they've been growing is just amazing and astronomical. They just keep on growing and quite possibly outgrowing the venue as of now.
Yeah, I think if you look at, so 2021 was the first year where they started doing 12s and 30s. I think if you see like each year, it's like exponentially growing, right? So after 2021, there's so many more, 12s specifically for 2022. And like that final event really was something like a spectacle, really. Like, again, none of the, like all the robots in that weight class, like that qualified, they were all top tier robots. So like it's no knock on anyone like qualifying whatsoever, like any weight class, really. Um, and I think it's a testament to like all these builders that are willing to keep building and, updating their robots, making them better, right? That's how the sport grows. That's how like you get better essentially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, like aside from just like the result, obviously, what did you think of the event? Something that I've noticed more and more is the sort of blending of NHRL and BattleBots in the sense of, I'm seeing more and more folks who have done BattleBots coming to NHRL events, and then like similarly more and more of these younger, people that have done NHRL finding themselves moving on to BattleBots teams. So it's very integrated at this point.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Joe.
so like you can see like before Norwalk, right? It was always Motorama or something like in Colorado or on the West Coast, like sort of those events, and those people stayed on those teams, right? Now with Norwalk, like it's more, you know, publicized and like people were like, Discord's really helpful, right? So, and you show the personalities of the people and you show the robots, and people were like learning more about you, right? And then you see captains from BattleBots, like they're just normal guys, right? Like Jonathan is a normal guy to us, where, if I don't know, you talk to a fan or something, like, Jonathan's like that guy, right? Um, so I think there's a respect level, right? They see how you act, they see what you do, and they, you start getting in those conversations. Whereas like before with Motorama, it was a little bit harder, right? So it was more like confrontational, like you're talking to them back and forth. Where now, like with Discord, you could just talk to them over that.
Yeah. Um, Now, the one thing for me, difference way wise between BattleBots and NHRL, and I think just like the the accessibility of the smaller bots kind of lends itself to that, but you see so much more creativity in the designs and things like that, which we certainly saw at this last event with, like Spitfire coming in, which is something completely different than what we would have ever seen. And, having bots like Clyde and Hot Wings and like all of these things, what do you think about that innovation? I mean, do you think that level of innovation is ever possible at a larger scale, or is that something that's purely unique to the smaller robots?
Uh, I think it's more you can test a lot of those ideas in the smaller class without someone telling you no. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the heavyweights, there's definitely some of those bots. Rusty started out like that. Doomba, there's definitely bots like that. They're just not as, common in the heavyweights. Um, and you can kind of see that with Destructathon too. They have their proving grounds, and I think some of those wacky bots get to go there. But yeah, it's always nice to see people trying out new ideas, unconventional ideas at smaller weight classes, and like positively hysterical, just being thinking of a cat pun. I'm not kitten
Um,
around.
you got it.
Sure. Yeah. It just likes to, stamp aggressively unless Tom decides to add some new like crazy murder weapon to it, which I'm sure he's trying to think of right now. So
a kitty saw.
A single tooth paw.
Yeah, a kitty saw.
Yeah.
A hammer saw.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Horizon, right? I mean, they built a 12-pounder and took it to Norwalk to see if it worked, right? So I think anything can happen really, and I think if you have a passion for what you're building and you have belief that it can scale up, robot builders are going to do wherever they feel like it's necessary, right? So if you have you love this design and you want to make it work, that they're going to make it work either way. If it in the end it doesn't, then you tried. And I think that's what's great about the sport. People are always trying to innovate, right? People are always trying to do something different. And that's what's great.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of see that from the perspective of Huge. Like, if you heard us talk about like 4 years ago of us believing Huge could make it to the finals, you would think we were all crazy. Like, you would just be calling like the mental house, just giving them the warning of us. But yeah, we've always believed Huge had the potential, and it's kind of the same, I suppose.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point because even though I love Huge and always have, when I came to filming and I was only there for the last 3 days and I found out that Huge was undefeated at that point, if there was a way to have captured my face in that moment, it was very much like surprise and excitement all at the same time. So yeah, but I mean, it was a crazy season, and I know that I've seen a lot of varying fan opinions about that because there's obviously going to be people who are just fans of maybe a more traditional style of robot. I mean, Jonathan and I talked about this. The number of people that said something like Huge shouldn't be allowed, but like, why not? To me, I think that like that innovation just makes everyone else better because then you have to say, okay, there's this robot and it's really good and it's beating everyone. How do I beat that? Like there's so many robots that have been created. I'm just going to throw Droopy out there as an example to counter a better robot. Like,
right.
That's just my opinion.
Don't worry. We've tried to tell Tommy he needs to build a 250 Droopy. So, we don't know where that's at right now, but I think Tommy's pretty content with doing the 3-pound stuff. So
I also told Tommy to build a 250-pound Droopy, so he's probably tired of people telling him to do that.
I think he's at least looked into it, based on some of the.
Oh yeah, he's definitely done some research of how to get a Droopy of that scale physically possible.
I don't think Greg and Trey would necessarily like it in their arena, but I think it'd be awesome to see a 250 Droopy.
I mean, what we really need is a 250-pound positively hysterical.
Of course.
That's what the world deserves. Now that the June competition is done though, and it was just very recently announced, even though I may have had some insight on that already, that BattleBots filming for World Championship VIII is not happening until at least first quarter of next year. What are you guys up to in the meantime?
We're still relaxing. We I guess we can go back like from BattleBots back in October and like how we were there for so long, and then December finals we were only there, like there was a month in between. That was just a lot. That was really a lot for us. Too much robot fighting essentially.
Oh yeah, so we went to the September Norwalk last year, and then we went to BattleBots in October, and then the December finals, and then from December to June we relaxed, and then Rush built for June.
Yeah. So we weren't really expecting to do well in December, and then sort of like poof, there you go.
I mean, we were also helping out with Bots IQ. We help the high school we donated the Norwalk winnings to.
Yeah. That was sort of like relaxing for us at least. So we were at least, helping out the kids in the club, try to figure out sort of new things like buying them 3D printers, how to use the 3D printers, wiring harnesses, batteries, sort of stuff like that, helping them out and then helping Bots IQ volunteer. So that was like March and April-ish and then May as well. And then after that we sort of were like, okay, let's try for June Norwalk. Let's see what happens. So yeah, like you said, we have some time until November. Thankfully it's not in December this year. So we feel like we have a holiday at least. Still throwing around some ideas. Couple of new improvements for both Ugee and Disko. So I think it'll be very exciting at least.
Well, that is awesome. I certainly look forward to seeing that, and I'm sure that others will as well. But you both definitely make some good robots, and we'll see what you do in the future here.
Yeah, we're excited to see it.
Awesome. Well, for everyone that is watching, please make sure that you continue to support Combat Robotics, and just keep, like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts, let me know what you think, and we will see everyone next time on the show.